All right. Welcome back to the world famous Tipitinas. Very excited for tonight's program. Before we get started, I do want to say for all the viewers out there, all 54 of you, if you do write us a letter, an actual letter, 501 Napoleon, New Orleans, Louisiana, 70115. People have sent us emails, and I appreciate the emails, but I really want an actual letter. If you send me an actual letter, I will mail you back an actual sticker for Tipitinas. Write your letters to the All Right broadcast, care of Tipitinas, 501 Napoleon, New Orleans, Louisiana, 70115. Can't believe I spaced on our address. I say it 10 times a day normally. And thank you so much to Tipitinas for letting us use the space. Thank you to Nugs.net for usage of the equipment. And I hope you're enjoying this on Tipitinas.tv. So enough of all that. Let's go ahead and get to it. You know our guest tonight from Bonerama, 16 years in Harry Connick Jr.'s band, the New Orleans Jazz Vipers, the Storyville Stompers, the Euphonious Brass Band, Leroy Jones Quintet. He's a member of the Preservation Hall Musical Collective. He's played with the Paradise Tumblers and countless others. Plus, he just won a Grammy for Best Regional Roots Music Album for Atmosphere with the New Orleans Nightcrawlers. Please help me welcome Craig Klein.
Thank you. Thank you.
Show the album off real quick. First of all,
here, check that out.
What's that sticker up there say?
That says Grammy winner. Wait, does it say that? It says Grammy winner. Holy shit. Really, but that's the record. It's called Atmosphere, and it was just crazy, Hank, the way that it all just dropped on the whole thing like that.
Absolutely. We're going to get into all of it, and we're going to dive deep back. First of all, something else I want to say, like we mentioned, this is the All Right broadcast program. This was not ripped off from the old Nightcrawlers tune, All Right. Or should I say, All Right. Sorry to cut you off. Nick is going to go ahead and show like 5 seconds of that song or something like that, I guess. But yes, that is not the same. We do have a comma between all rights, but we do have the incorrect but phonetic spelling of all right with A-L-R-I-G-H-T.
Well, you can use the song as much or any kind of way you want to.
Thank you so much.
We've just given you permission to do that.
All right, perfect. You see, he has permission, so when YouTube tries to give us copyright problems for using your copyrighted music in this video, that was the permission right there, YouTube.
They can call me.
YouTube Army.
Yeah.
Let's go way back to the beginning. Where were you born?
I was born here in New Orleans in 1960.
Oh, wow. 1960. Well, where did you go to school?
Well, I didn't go to school. I went to East Jefferson. Which was an institution in the 70s.
Yeah, it's an institution for sure. That's it's right off Airline in Metairie, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How's the jazz program at East Jeff?
Well, that was the thing that really interests me. I wasn't interested in academics too much, but we had a music professor there named Jay Haydell who was absolutely hands down great.
Okay.
And totally inspired not just me but a lot of musicians. And it was a learning period, and that's the only reason I liked high school was because of the music program.
Okay. But so did they have a jazz ensemble or anything like that? Okay,
they did. Yeah, we had a big band. Mm-hmm.
All right. But your ultimate playing, or at least from what I understand, goes back to your uncle, who's a musician that was just a few years older than you, that gave you your first instrument. Is that right?
That's right. Jerry Dahlman. Jerry is 7 years older than I am and 16 years younger than my mom.
Oh, wow.
So he's closer to a brother for me.
Mm-hmm.
And he started playing trombone also. I can't remember how or why, but he did, and I watched him. And when I was in fourth grade, that's normally when you join the band around here.
Yeah, that's a lot of people don't realize that in New Orleans, and I don't even know if it's still true, but in the public schools, they don't wait till junior high or high school, elementary school.
Yeah. Yeah, because when you get to junior high, you have to be ready. We were expected to know how to play when we got to junior high.
Yeah. So let me ask you this about trombone players, at least. Why are trombone players so weird? I only say that because it's a strange breed.
I think you meant to ask why are trumpet players so weird?
Well, I know why they're so weird, but is trombone the hardest instrument to play? A lot of people say that because there's no buttons, there's no,
Yeah, the trombone is a slide. It's almost like a fretless guitar.
Yeah.
So every other instrument, you press buttons or you key something or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But the trombone, you have to put the slide in the right. There's 7 positions: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And in each position, there's a harmonic series, and you just have to know where they are. In each harmonic series, the notes can be different. So if I'm in second position and I'm playing an A, when I play a high G, I need to move the slide to compensate for the.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people, at least when I was talking with Big Sam, I know one of the reasons he played trombone was because he said, what instrument does no one want to play? They're like, oh, no one wants to play the trombone. Go ahead and take the trombone.
Yeah, you know, I didn't think of it like that. I
Okay.
saw my uncle playing, and I said, I want to play. That's what I want to do.
All right.
You know.
Well, I mean, it's just one of those instruments. I would say it's amongst the most powerful brass instruments. I mean, maybe I'm wrong entirely, but you're literally, it's like you're punching someone while you're playing, you know? It's just, you have to use power when you play it.
Yeah, and you know, New Orleans is first of all, it's a brass city. Brass
Yeah.
bands are really, really important part of the culture here. So if you play in a brass band, you first of all, you play an outside, so you learn how to project your volume.
Yeah.
You have to project, and the trombone has that nice big bell that definitely pushes out. The trumpet is more direct. The smaller bell, the trumpet is more of a piercing. The trombone is a little bit more open and blends. Trombones blend really well together.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you guys have proved that over the years with Bonerama, like we had mentioned before. Something else before we start moving on. I understand you play the tuba as well.
I play some tuba.
You still play?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, tuba slim.
All right.
You know, tuba is a great double for a trombone player, especially brass bands. I mean, I've been playing in a brass band for 40 years.
Yeah.
And it works. It's just a perfect double for a trombone player. You get more work. You get more gigs.
With fewer of them out there, I guess. Right?
Well, they used to be. Now there's a tuba sousaphone players can be a dime a dozen. Just
All
like
right.
trombone players. I mean, it's funny that you can make a living playing sousaphone in New Orleans.
I mean, is it so funny? I mean, is it that difficult in other towns, I guess?
You're right. It's not funny here, but it might be funny in other cities, in Houston or somewhere. You know?
Yeah. Well, I guess we have a more brass-centric sound. I think it's probably
Absolutely.
owing to a lot of that.
For sure.
But-
It's part of the culture.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of other, maybe just not in the United States, where it's much more. In Europe, there might be some good work. Maybe in Germany for some of that papa music or whatever else.
Well, you know, brass band music comes from a couple of different sources. Military bands is where brass bands come from. When you look at us dressed in our traditional caps, uniforms, that comes from a military look. Now, more than 100 years ago, each town would have their own brass band, and they played concert kind of music, right? So in New Orleans, with that influence and the African influence with the drums, that got put together, and so it's a mixture of European. Our instruments are European. The instrument,
Yeah.
trombone,
Yeah.
trumpet, saxophone, tubas, they're all European. The drums are African. So this is part of the way that it all mixes up and comes out.
No, I just thought that was very interesting. A lot of people don't consider that all the different music that has come together over the years, specifically in a place like New Orleans, which, just our geographic location with the Mississippi and everything that came up through the Gulf up the Mississippi. Like you said, there was all these European and military marching bands and things like that, and they were using their own rhythms and their own beats and just kind of blended them together to create what became brass band music, jazz music, all the different sounds that we hear today ultimately does come from that. I think a lot of people forget about that sometimes.
Yeah. And you're right. It's still to this day, lots of towns and villages in Europe have their own brass band.
Yeah.
That's a tradition that still carries on.
Something else total side note, I think I love pointing it out for some reason. I don't know why, but at least in New Orleans, most people forget what an opera town this was. I don't know if you were aware of that either, but
Yeah,
this was
well-
like the #1 city for opera outside of New York, bigger than San Francisco even,
Yeah.
100 years ago up until the opera house burned down in the 19-teens
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Well, New Orleans had, from what I've studied and read, is that New Orleans had the first opera house in the U.S.
Okay,
But
I believe it. Yeah.
I believe it was when France was still, the owner of Louisiana.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. Total side note: you don't attend opera or play.
I would, but the music our music history is so deep.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
incredibly deep, and we're just lucky to be here with it.
Well, from East Jeff, you went to Loyola, I believe. Is that true?
I went to Loyola for one semester. Actually, I didn't even finish the semester.
Ouch.
It was, I was 17 when I graduated from high school.
Okay.
And I got a scholarship to Loyola, music scholarship. And man, everybody was so serious at that time. Everybody's practicing for hours a day. And I thought college was supposed to be about, fun.
Party,
I wanted
right?
to party. I wanted to drink and, chase girls.
It didn't mesh well with your studies then?
It messed around with my studies, so I quit Loyola. I quit Loyola right before the finals because I got offered a job working at my friend's father's plant somewhere, and I took it. Okay. So I did that, and that didn't work out so great.
What kind of job, if you don't mind?
It was on Almanast. It was a container yard.
Oh, okay.
All
right.
It was it was like a laborer job. So I put the horn in the closet, and I was like, okay, and then that didn't work out so good, and I went to Southeastern Louisiana University.
In Hammond, right?
In Hammond, yeah. And in the meantime, while that was going on, I got a call from Jerry, Uncle Jerry, and he said, hey, I know these guys looking to put a band together. They need a trombone player. So I took the horn out the closet, and I started practicing, getting my chops, and I started playing in this band. It was called Magazine. It was sort of a funk cover band.
All right.
And this was 1979 maybe.
Was this when you were playing at Fat City at the place?
Yes, it was.
All right. I did some homework on you. Don't worry.
Yeah,
What
we
was
were
the
playing.
place? What was the place?
That's exactly right. We were playing at Fat City. We played. So I was in school at Southeastern, and we had a gig on Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday at the place, and it was a club, with this band Magazine. It was a really good horn funk band, And we got paid $100 for all three of those gigs. It was like $33 a gig.
So you guys had to split $100?
No. Each person got $100.
Oh, okay.
I got
That's
100
not
for the
bad
3
in
days.
1979.
It was not too bad. So I would drive in from school and play Wednesday and go back to school. And Southeastern was fun. So I did that. I was doing that kind of a thing. And then Jerry called me one day and he said, hey, I've been playing around with this funky brass band called the Paradise Tumblers. And he said,
sorry to cut you off. Comma to the top, dice.
Like a paradise, like you roll in the dice.
Yeah, pair of dice, yeah.
Paradise. And they pretty much considered themselves marching music therapists. So if this is an indication of how the Tumblers kind of were, it was crazy, man. It was mostly musicians who didn't really know how to play music. Wesley Schmidt, Wesley.
Do I know Wesley?
Well, Wesley passed away a couple years ago. He owned Snug Harbor, and he was the Grand Marshal.
I know. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry.
So Wesley started the Tumblers with a group of friends. It was almost like they had a pile of instruments, and you just picked an instrument out and learned how to play 2 or 3 songs. But it apparently became so much fun. And then there would be the girls group who would march in front of the Tumblers were called the Poodles,
right.
The Pink Poodles, and they would dress as in pink, and it would be a costume thing. So I show up to this thing, and I fell in love with it. I'm like, oh my God, I'm marching through the streets. We'd start at the Dream Palace, and we would just march through the quarter. Now, it involved a lot of costumes and a good bit of drugs and, some psychedelics and lots of drinking, and we would just go through the quarter, and we'd stop Molly's at the market. It was so impromptu and so, oh my God, and it was so much fun.
Yeah.
But this is what started my whole interest. I'm going, man, here I am, 19, 20 years old, and I'm parading through the streets of New Orleans. It's like a dream. Am I in the dreamland?
Well, you had gotten into. Were you into brass music before then? Because I understand that, through doing some reading, you and your buddies would go to the quarter in high school when you could sneak into bars with fake IDs, whatever else, get some drinks, but ultimately you would always find your way to Pres Hall, catch some of these old jazz cats playing at Preservation Hall, and that definitely spurred your love for jazz. But was it around the same time that you started getting into brass music as well?
Well, I did, yes. That was a very important part of what grabbed me, the New Orleans music grabbed me and just pulled me in, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in high school in the 70s, the drinking age was 18.
Yeah.
You could get a fake ID. At 15 years old, I had a fake ID, and
So
I
you're
looked
a
like
tall
I was.
guy. You probably looked 18, right?
Yeah, I looked about 12.
Oh, no kidding.
They
All
didn't
right.
care though. They were like, "Yeah, sure, come on in, buy a drink," you know.
All right.
So we would just go to the quarter. There was a lot of good music on Bourbon Street, lots of jazz music, and we could get our drinks and walk up and down, and we would go to Pat O'Brien's. Well, I remember walking by going to Pat O'Brien's, and the doors for Preservation Hall, the shutters where the first door, they don't open them anymore, but they would open, and you could stand in the shutter and look in. And I'm looking at this, and I can still see it today. I got my Hurricane, I'm looking in, and then I started going in. The cup charge was only like $3, so
Yeah.
I started going in and standing in the back wall and seeing these musicians that I didn't know who they were, the Humphrey Brothers, Louis Nelson, you know, Sweet Emma, all and so it sucked me in.
Yeah.
And that was my first real, it just was my first real experience with this kind of New Orleans traditional jazz, and it floored me, and my eyes were wide open. So that was during that time. So when we would go to the quarter, I would get my Hurricane and leave them and go to Pat O'Brien. I mean, from Pat O'Brien's to Preservation Hall.
Yeah.
Either to stick my head in the window and just listen, or to go in.
I think a lot of people don't realize that 40 or so years ago, the French Quarter was much different than it is today.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Pat O'Brien's is still there, obviously. Preservation Hall is still there. But it wasn't all neon lights and people swinging or singing, you know, Sweet Home Alabama every other block and whatever else.
No.
Like, there was, not that people that play on there aren't respectable or anything like that, but there was something more uniquely New Orleans about everything that was coming out of every window, every door.
Yeah.
Up and down Bourbon Street and along the French, you know, all through the French Quarter.
And you could walk up and down and hear some of the best music, world-class music, perfect, just beautiful. And so that was an experience, you know, for that. I grew up just being around it. So when the Tumblers came about, I felt like I was ready for that,
Yeah.
you know, mentally.
Absolutely.
I wasn't ready musically. Although with the Tumblers, anybody could be ready musically with the Tumblers. That was the beauty of that.
Yeah. Yeah, if you were just willing to eat some drugs, put on a costume, and pick up an instrument, you were in?
Yeah.
All right. Let's go back. I wish I was around back then. You mentioned going to Southeastern. I understand you graduated with a marketing degree and then ended up selling real estate for a time after graduating?
Yeah, when I graduated in, what was it, 84 or so?
That's what my research says,
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So the Paradise Tumblers, I started in around 1980.
Okay.
And then out of the Paradise Tumblers, then started music, like my Uncle Jerry was showing up, and Rico was showing up, and Snakebite. Real musicians started showing up to the Tumbler gigs because they were just so much fun.
Yeah.
It was just fun. Didn't think about, it was no money, it was just fun. The fun was the enjoyment of it all. So Rico, he could see that there was a market for a brass band, so he took 6 or 7 of us from the Tumblers, the musicians who could play, and he started the Storyville Stompers brass band.
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
that was in October 1981. So we're coming up on 40 years as the Storyville Stompers brass band.
Still playing with them, right?
Oh yeah, Uncle Jerry too, and Woody were the 3 originals, and we play for 40 years. We have continuously played, except during pandemic time.
Obviously, yeah.
But that band has worked since we started in 1981, and that's a very, I feel really, really good about being in a band for 40 years.
Well, it's taken you all over the world too. You know, I mean, obviously you've been all over the world in other projects since, but you know, to think of the longevity and to think that it hasn't held you back from doing all the other good things that you've been able to do with your career.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So were you playing almost exclusively with the Storyville Stompers throughout the 80s pretty much up until you ended up getting the call to possibly join Harry Connick's band?
Yeah, and throughout the 80s, especially the early 80s, we played all through the World's Fair and just kind of kept going. We were playing at Molly's at the Market on Decatur Street on Fridays and Sundays, just kind of getting our thing together. But the Olympia Brass Band, that was the model that we modeled ourselves after. because the Olympia was a very, very important brass band. They came out of the old style tradition. And when Milton Batiste got in the band, he was a rhythm and blues trumpet player. So he brought some rhythm and blues elements into the Olympia brass band. And then Tuba Fats got in the band. He was the youngster in the band. Yeah. And the whole band, it was just, they changed a bit of how the old traditional style brass band music started being played.
Well, Olympia has probably been around close to 100 years, huh?
Oh, yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, none of them, there's no more Olympia.
Yeah.
But they influenced us, and in 1986, Milton Batiste, the trumpet player from the Olympia, produced the Storyville Stompers' first record.
Nice.
And it's only available on vinyl and cassette tape, actually, right now.
All right. You're not going to digitize it, put it on, one of the platforms or something?
It would be fun. It was in our early stage. It's fun to go back and listen to and see where we've come to from there.
Yeah, man, I can dust off a cassette player and, see if it'll work.
But that was the influence that the Olympia had on us.
Yeah.
Those guys were they were role models. They were like our rock stars. We followed them. I hung around with them. They led us. They saw that we were honest and true to trying what we were trying to do, and we were trying to learn. And they were very open and receptive to trying to help us learn.
No, that's beautiful. And it's funny you say that only because I did talk to one or two people in the past couple of days and said, hey, I'm going to have Craig on the program. If you have any good questions, he's like, just to see if anyone had any funny stories for me to poke fun at you with or anything like that. And I didn't get any dirt or anything like that. It was just more like, hey, man, Craig's just one of those great guys that you won't find anyone that respects the tradition of this music as much as you. So, to pay you a compliment. You're well respected amongst the other musicians that I reached out to in the past couple of days about you.
Oh, so. Thank you very much. Thank you, fellas.
For sure. Well, everyone loves you. And I think that, I've mentioned this at least, with George Porter Jr. and a couple other guys that have been on here, that not to poke fun at your age or anything like that, but like you said, born in 1960, when you were a young guy, late 70s, early 80s, starting to play professionally, the guys that you were hanging around and learning from were the guys that created this sound that we have today. The guys who basically were the impetus for what New Orleans sound has been for the past 120 years.
Yeah.
They were around when you were a kid, and now you're around playing with the other kids that are coming up now. So I think it's one of those beautiful things that you're one of the bridges, from original school to new school. You know? So.
Wow, I didn't think of it like that, but that's quite an interesting way to think of it like that.
You're bridging the gap of the New Orleans sound to
well,
the future.
You know what? That's what they did it for. They helped us.
Yeah.
And we have to help the youngsters now, because that's how you keep this music going. That's how you keep it live. That's how you keep it fresh, and that's how you keep it growing. You have to inspire the young musicians.
Yeah, I mean, and that goes back to show winning a Grammy with some brass music. No offense, a 60-year-old guy can still win Grammys with brass music. So there you go. It's just a beautiful thing. I really enjoy it.
Well, Bobby Rush, Bobby Rush didn't win his first Grammy till he was 84.
There you go.
And he just won his second Grammy at 87.
So worry, man.
Put that in perspective.
You're so far ahead of him. You'll have 5 by the time you're 87. Let's talk about, like I mentioned before, Harry Connick Jr.'s band. I heard a funny story, which was that you got the job by auditioning over the telephone. Is that for real?
That's for real. It is for real. Well, my really good friend Lucian Barberin, and we lost Lucian to prostate cancer in January 2020. Well, he's the one who really he got me. Lucian and I were friends. We were buddies. We were playing together a lot. And when Harry was putting together his big band in 1990, he already had Shannon Powell on drums. Shannon was in the band already, and he wanted Lucian and he wanted Leroy for sure, Leroy Jones, because those are the top guys around here. So they were hired, and then I had heard because Lucian told me, yeah, man, I got the gig. Harry's hiring me. He said, I'm going to recommend you. I said, okay. And I can remember seeing Lucian at French Quarter Festival, playing with Danny Bark. I can still see it today on one of those Bourbon Street stages. And I go up there, and on a break, he said, look, go home right now because they're going to call you today, and talk to you. I said, okay. I went home and I warmed up a little bit because I had no idea what the deal was. So Ben Wolf calls, and I found out later Harry was on the call, and then we talking and this and that and the other, and he says, you can either play for us now or send us a tape. And I just thought, now or never, man.
Yeah.
It's a tape, So I said, okay, I put the phone down and I played a tune. Dr. Jazz is what I played. And when I picked the phone up, they said, okay, you got the gig.
That's beautiful. How quick was it before you were on the road, basically? And did you guys do long rehearsals before you went on the road? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Harry had won. Harry got a lot of success in the movie When Harry Met Sally.
Yeah.
He did another record, When We Are in Love, and he wanted to tour for that. So he would put this big band together. It was only supposed to be for 6 months, like a 6-month tour. But it lasted. It's still going on. I left 16 years later. But so that's how it all unfolded. Then Mark Mullins got the gig. A few other people got the gig. He wanted some New Orleans people and some New York people.
Okay.
And the gig lasted. In the meantime, Mark and I put Bonerama together in the middle of all of that, and then Bonerama started getting some legs, and we left Harry in 06.
Okay. Well, don't jump ahead too far. How did you meet Mark Mullins? I guess let's go back to that. You met him long before you would ever join the band together, right?
I knew him because he was at Loyola, and he was a young, really spitfire trombone player. So I knew who he was, and we were friends. We had talked. So we had known each other.
But you never played in bands together before Harry's?
I don't recall ever really playing in any bands with Mark before Harry.
Okay. Well, for the big band, Harry Connick Jr.'s big band, what was that like? What's it like working for him when he was fresh on the road? Because he was, people around here knew him, but he hadn't necessarily made a name musically. Because, like you said, he did a couple movies and whatever else, and he had, I think it was the soundtrack, like you said, for Harry Met Sally. But I don't think people had really gotten accustomed to seeing a young guy playing with a big band on the road like that before. What was it like in those early days?
Yeah, it was great. It was great. Yeah, people hadn't seen that pretty much since, I don't know, Frank Sinatra or something.
Yeah,
I don't
it had
know.
been decades since that was popular to do.
Except Harry is a piano player. Like, that's his main thing, and a singer also.
The pupil of James Booker.
James Booker was his teacher. You know? Yes. So it was really a great experience, Tank. Oh man, the musicians in that band were like serious, top notch, and it went on, and we had a ball. It was so much fun. We played everywhere. We played TV shows. We played the Johnny Carson show 2 weeks before he was retiring. It was this, that. We were rolling from here to there. Harry was on fire. He's still on fire. But at that time he was a young piano player, singer, just coming out. And as a matter of fact, in 1991, one of the highlight things that we did was we played on the Grammy Awards with Harry because he was nominated for a Grammy that year, and he won the Grammy that year.
That's awesome. Yeah. I guess they didn't give you one.
Well, we didn't play.
You weren't on the album, right?
We didn't play on the record, And I think there's some kind of weird cutoff thing. Like, if you have over 9 or 10 people in a band, they don't give everybody a.
Is that real?
Yeah,
Did y'all hit that with the Nightcrawlers?
We haven't gotten the trophy yet, but they did say that 9. They said, okay, that's about where the cutoff is.
So it's not a hard number. They just decide arbitrarily.
It might be a hard number, but it's like 9 or 10.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see about that. We talked a little bit about Bonerama, so let's get into forming a Bonerama. Well, I pour myself another drink. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I'm here just to entertain myself. Sorry. About it.
Well, even prior to Bonerama is when the Nightcrawlers started in 1994.
Yeah, I did want to say that. The Nightcrawlers have been around. I only segued into Mark, but tell me about forming the Nightcrawlers, then we'll get into Bonerama.
Yeah, well, the Nightcrawlers, we started in 1994, and it started as like a writer's workshop. It was sort of a thing. Tom McDermott is a piano player. A lot of people know Tom.
Phenomenal. Yeah.
Phenomenal piano player, very talented. He wrote some arrangements for the Dirty Dozens. I think it was the Jelly Roll Morton tribute record they did. And they might have used one, but he wanted to hear some of his arrangements played, so he called Matt. He called Matt Perrine and Kevin Clark and said, hey, you know, how would y'all feel about calling some of your friends and let's place through some of these charts if you have anything. So they called me. Rick Troson was in it. You know, Barney Floyd, Kevin Clark, Evan Christopher was in the beginning, and Eric Traub. And we would just get together at my house, and guys would bring music, and we would just practice. You know, we didn't have any agenda, didn't have a name, didn't have any goals, anything really, other than just let's get together and play this music, brand new music that the guys would bring in. Well, it started sounding good, and we had a few songs, and we said let's record. So it was about, I think it was 95, 96. We were there was a place where, you know, One Eyed Jacks in the Quarter. It used to be
Shim Sham.
It was a Shim Sham, but before that, it was Maxwell's Toulouse. It was always the Toulouse Cabaret.
That's right. Yeah.
The Toulouse Cabaret was it's a theater. You know, it's a venue for shows. It might have been an old vaudeville theater, but it's a great,
It's a beautiful room.
beautiful little nice, very quaint room. So Matt and I were playing there a lot, and to do the record, we thought it'd be a great room to play in. We hired Tim Stambaugh from Word of Mouth, brought his studio, set it up early one morning. And we show up, I don't know, about 10:30 in the morning, and Ed Maxwell, he's the manager there. He says, what are y'all doing here this early? Y'all are Nightcrawlers. So we said, well, that's the name of the band.
So he named the band for you.
He named the band for us.
That's awesome.
And we made the record. We put we recorded the record. And we said, let's let some people hear this. So we let Scott Billington hear it. Scott's very big in Rounder Records, and he said, I'd like to put this out on Rounder and do another record. So our first two records we put out on Rounder. So that's how the Nightcrawlers started. And over the years, we always would play French Quarter Fest, Jazz Fest. Sometime in the beginning, we would play some clubs. We'd do this, that, and the other. But then with 9 really top call musicians in the band, it got harder and harder to put things together.
Well, between you, I think I was joking with Ace before, but collectively you have a resume of over 100 active bands that you probably all play with together. Just because there's 9 guys that, just like yourself, like
Definitely.
Obviously, you're a full-time member of a few different bands,
Yeah.
and so is everyone else in the band.
Everyone else is too. So it's always was hard to make. The stars had to line up and to write direction just to get us in the same room. It got to be like that. So we would play French Quarter Fest, Jazz Fest, and maybe a club date or so. Sometimes for years that would happen, but we would put a record out every once in a while, and we haven't put a record out in 10 years before this one.
Yeah.
So it was, and we recorded it pre-pandemic in 2019.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how long did it take to record, mix, and master it all? Because, you know, obviously you won the award, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? Like, they just had the Grammys just a few weeks ago.
Yep.
And it was, you know, recorded, it was put out a year ago and recorded a year before that.
Yeah.
So how long did it take till it was ready to go, like the whole process?
Well, you know, it always is an interesting process to get the Nightcrawlers to record because it's, like I said, it's hard to get everybody together.
Yeah.
So Matt Perrine produced this really great record, and he took it from the beginning to the end. And he had an idea. He said, I would like to rehearse and then record the next day. So we did that 3 times.
Okay.
Except what we did was, we're all old friends. We wanted to reacquaint ourselves with our friendship. So at the rehearsals, we would bring food. Sometimes we'd cook out on a grill. So we'd spend 3 or 4 hours. We'd rehearse for an hour. We'd take a break, hang out for 45 minutes or so, and then go back and rehearse some more. And then we also did that in the studio. Some of the guys would bring in these home-cooked. We didn't just order pizza. Like, we had some home-cooked throw-down meals.
Nice.
And did the same thing in the studio. So it was a very relaxed atmosphere is where the whole thing.
That's where the title comes from, I guess, huh?
Yeah. Because you know what? If the vibe is right in the studio, more than likely the music is going to come out right.
Yeah.
So we were going for that. So that happened 3 times in 2019.
How far apart were the recording sessions?
They were like within a month, like 1 month. We do one month. We did one, and then that next month, I tell you, we recorded June 17th, August 12th, and October 17th,
wow, so
2019.
This took a few months then.
Yeah. We stretched it out. Then we started mixing. Mike Napolitano. We recorded at Maroney Studios.
Okay.
Rick Nelson, and then Mike Napolitano mixed it. And Matt wanted to use Mike Napolitano because, number one, he had never mixed a brass band record before.
Okay.
So
It's a leap of faith, huh?
It was kind of a leap of faith, but Mike has done and is such a badass, engineer mixing at these records that it was a no-brainer to get him on that, and the mix came out stellar on it. So yeah, we did that 3 different dates, 3 different sessions on that, mixed it. Oh, it was ready to go out. We were putting it out for French Quarter Fest, Jazz Fest. 2020. That was the goal. That's what we all do. Musicians in New Orleans.
Yeah, everyone's shooting for
You put the
spring,
record
yeah.
out during French Quarter Fest, Jazz Fest, and it helps pay for half of it.
yeah.
So when it didn't happen, we're sitting here with the record. We got vinyl, man. We got CDs. We got all of that. We said, let's just put it out. Let's put it out anyway. So what? We just want people to hear it. And we put it out. Somebody gave Scott Billington, our old buddy from the beginning days, a copy. Scott loved the record. He said, I'm going to just put it in the pile of maybe get a nomination,
Is he part of the, what are the RIAA?
The recording, yes. He's a Recording Academy member.
Okay.
And I mean, there were probably 75 to 100 albums in this category just to get a nomination. And I mean, you think, oh, sure, it'd be great. Yeah, I think, sure, go ahead and do that. It'd be nice. And next thing you know, I'm in Rouse's. I'm buying groceries. I get a text saying from one of the guys, we're nominated for a Grammy. I'm going, wait a minute, what? Oh, really?
Say, hey, man, you got the wrong number.
Yeah. So this is funny, Tank. I wanted to, I was so excited, I forgot what I was supposed to be buying. I didn't know if I should just leave the basket there and just go.
Just start running in the street?
Yeah, I wanted to tell somebody. So there's a guy stocking the shelf, and I said, hey, man, you mind if I tell you something really cool? We just found out. So I tell him, I said, man, I'm in, and I just got nominated for a Grammy stock. He goes, oh, man, that's cool. So we talked for a minute. So I had to go check out because I couldn't remember what else I needed from that point.
That's great. That's great. Do you still keep up with that guy?
Yeah, I see him at Rouse's.
Do you? All right. You don't know his name, though, do you?
No.
All right, well, we got to get him on the program. We'll track him down.
So that was a trip. Just that whole that right there.
No, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful story. But there you go again. Like you said, strange time. You're just a stranger in a mask at Rouse's trying to talk to another stranger in the mask. Like, hey, I'm up for the Grammy noms, whatever else there, even whatever, and finally winning. I know you guys were performing that day, right?
Well, because it was all virtual this year. You couldn't go. No one's flying to Hollywood. Nobody, right? So we decided, well, what's better than sitting in our room? We would all get together and have to, because the way it happened was they send you, each nominee got a link, right? Mm-hmm. So you had to be logged in. They told you what time your category was going to be read. Mm-hmm. Because there's 80 categories in the Grammys. Now, only Recording Academy members can vote. And you can only vote in 15 of those 80 categories. Actually, 15 of the 60 or so music categories. There's liner note categories, and there's other video categories.
Spoken words.
And you have to be in that. You have to be somebody in that. Somebody who writes liner notes to be able to vote. So you can only really vote for 60 or so. So in Los Angeles, they start reading those categories at 1 o'clock, right? So we knew, they said, at about 1:30 their time, 3:30 our time, they're going to be reading this category for Best Regional Roots Album. And so we thought, what better way to do it than to have a show outside where we can have our family and our friends there. So we did it at the Broadside. And there's 2 other bands from Louisiana that were nominated in the category.
That's right.
Right? Cameron Dupuis and the Cajun Troubadours, a great band.
Yep.
And Saint Cecilia from Lafayette. No, Cameron's from New Orleans. He went to Rummel High School,
Did he go to Rummel?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. All right.
Yeah, he's from here. So we thought, what if 2 bands in the same category were both going to play the show? We're both going to be on our computers at the same time, and hopefully one of us is going to win. Hopefully, that's what we're thinking. Yeah. One of us. So we're on a stage over here, and Cameron and his band is over on the stage, and we had figured it out. where we have the computer and the camera's facing the audience, right? So the shot will be like whoever wins, hope it's everybody kind of, joyfully, going crazy.
Yeah.
And so that's how that happened. And then if you win, they pull you up on your screen and you have like 30 seconds to say an acceptance kind of a thing.
No, well, I know that you very much have said it multiple times that it was a win for New Orleans, and I absolutely agree with you, and I want you to be able to take some credit for yourself just because, everyone, we're all proud. That's just it. Whenever a local band like this can win a Grammy, because when Rebirth did this, 6, 7, 8 years ago? That was that many years ago?
Yeah.
That was the first time a brass band had ever won any kind of accolade like that. It's just one of those things where, we couldn't as a city be prouder for you. So to thank the city in return is also, one of those special things. But, we're just proud of you.
Thank you, man. When Rebirth won 9 years ago, I felt like it was a win for all of us. It really did, especially brass band musicians. When you're in the brass band world, when they won, it opened the eyes up to people. Next thing you know, there's New Orleans style brass bands going everywhere. You wouldn't, the amount of brass bands they have now around the world is staggering. In a good way. We're glad of that.
Back to where there's one in every town again, right?
There we go, except they're New Orleans style kind of funky brass bands. So Rebirth just opened that door up, and to come back in again as a brass band and do it again, it just brings that attention to this culture. It's sacred, It's a sacred culture.
Well, it's wild. Beyond that, this is New Orleans. We very much it's ours. It's our thing. New Orleans is its own music, whether it's blues, jazz, funk, rock, whatever else. Everything New Orleans is already New Orleans. So it's almost like I don't really know where I'm going with that specifically, but it's interesting to be categorized like that.
Yeah.
And to think that there's multiple Louisiana acts in this regional route, because I know Hawaiian artists have got it before, and other types of random music. The fact that there's different types of Louisiana music all in this one regional roots category is interesting. It's almost too broad a category.
It's a pretty broad category because there's a Hawaiian band, there was a Native American Indian band.
See, exactly.
There's 2 Cajun bands and there's a brass band. So when you really think about it, it really is there. It's roots music to the region,
Yeah. There's tons of different types of folk roots music that exists and everything, so it's interesting.
Sure is. And John Cleary won the award 6 years ago in the same category.
Yeah. It's astonishing, but it's a beautiful thing. So it couldn't be prouder. And hats off to you again.
But it's too far in between when these things happen. So, hopefully it opens more brass bands coming out, putting out more records, and really making a splash even more than what it is, which is big. The brass band scene is pretty big right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
There must be 100 brass bands in New Orleans, maybe more.
You think? I know there's a lot.
There's a lot. When you consider all of the bands that are just thrown together too, there's probably a good 50 organized.
Well, it's funny you say that because we have the All Right brass band. First gig is going to be Nick. No, I'm just kidding.
See if they want to play our song.
Yeah, for sure. No, we only play All Right. That's it.
That's it.
For 45 minutes, and that's it. That's the whole set. But yeah, no, it's phenomenal. Couldn't be happier for New Orleans Nightcrawlers, and I hope the best of you. We're not wrapping up the interview by any stretch.
Okay, good.
I just wanted to. We were talking about it. So you said that they formed in '94. About 3-4 years later, I guess, is when Bonerama started, getting together. And I do know that the original idea was while you guys were touring with Harry Connick, and you had a day off, a night off, whatever, in New York, and it was recommended to you to go check out this one band over here in the Village. It's a Cuban-style jazz band, and they have 5 trombones. You should check this out. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was. We spent a lot of time in New York with Harry. This recording that or the other, So one of the guys in the band that lived in New York, Dave Schumacher, he was into the Latin scene. He's into the Latin scene really big, and it was a Monday night. He said, you should go hear this band. It's a salsa band. And every Monday night at the Village Gate, which the Village Gate, the club is still there. It's called something else now. But every Monday night, was salsa meets jazz. So it would be a Latin salsa band with a jazz musician. So that night it was this, and I can't remember the name of it. I think they were from Puerto Rico. 5 trombones with Ronnie Cuba, the great baritone saxophone player Ronnie Cuba, as the jazz artist being featured with this band. And when I sat there, and I mean, I can still picture looking at that and seeing those horns up there and just feeling that power. I was like, whoa. It was profound. It was a moment where I thought, holy, this is like real shit, you know. And I went home and had a dream that night to start a New Orleans band, sort of a brass band kind of a vibe, with the trombones, right? So I talked to Mark, Mullins the next day, who was a trombone player with Harry also, and he was of course totally into it. And we started, okay, who do we want? Who can we get? You know, who's available? We had about, I think the first show we did at Tipitina's in the French Quarter.
I was going to say the first Bonerama gig. Was it even called that at the time?
The club or the band?
No, the name of the band.
It was Bonerama.
Okay,
yeah.
right out the gate. That's
right
the
out
name
the
y'all
gate.
chose.
Yeah. Well, we named it. There's a band around here called Twangorama, right?
Yeah.
You know, Jimmy Robinson and Cranston and Phil. And every once in a while, they would hire the some trombones to play with them, and we would play, you know. So the Bonerama is a takeoff of the Twangorama name.
All right.
Doesn't always work out so well.
All right.
We'll say no more on that. But yeah, let's take a sip.
Yeah, take a sip. Do the thing. Yeah.
So that was 1998.
Okay.
And it was just a fun project. It was like we were on tour with Harry so much, and you know, in New Orleans, there's so many side projects you can do. The Nightcrawlers was a side project.
Storyville Stompers.
Stompers. It's all
you were already
these,
active in many bands.
Yeah, getting so the Bonerama was just another fun side project. You know, we had Lucian Barber was in the band. It was Steve Suter, Mark and I, Brian O'Neill. We had Corey Henry, Freddie Lonzo. It was about 8 or 9 of us on the stage at Tips that night.
That's Tips French Quarter.
Tips
for those
French
who might
Quarter.
remember. I think it's an escape room now.
Yeah. It was a good room, and it was a great place to start.
Well, it was new actually at the time too. That's another little tidbit of Tipitina's history that some people forget, that it was started in the late 90s. And I think, I don't remember exactly who was making the call on booking, but Mark was doing some sort, I don't know if it was Bonerama specific, but...
No, it was Wednesday. It was like Mark Mullins presents on Wednesday, and he could do whatever he wanted.
How did he get that by any chance? Do you know how he was given just like, hey, we're going to give you a night every week?
I'm not sure how he got that.
Right, when we get him on the program, I'll have to ask him.
Yeah. Right. But so that's how it was, and we had been rehearsing Bonerama, and that's where we that was the first time it was presented on a Wednesday, you know, and from there it just kept growing, and it tightened up. Some of the trombone guys didn't really, they had their own thing. Freddie was Preservation Hall, real busy. You know, Lucian was this, that, and all kind of things. He was always busy. So
Corey might have been in Rebirth at the time.
Corey was with Rebirth or the New Birth, or Corey had his own brass band at the time too. So everybody, and then we got down to 5 trombones, and then we just kept having fun with it, you know. And it just kind of kept growing. It grew and it grew, and we started taking it out a little bit on the road, test the waters in about 2000. And it just kind of kept growing and getting some legs on it, and just kept going. And we would do Harry's tour, and we would schedule Bonerama tours in between. Harry would tour for like 2 or 3 weeks on, a week or 2 off, so we would schedule our things in between all of that. And then it started getting more, and it was, you know, becoming, you know, a little more than we even thought it would ever become. So we decided to leave Harry. We said, let's leave Harry and we'll focus on Boneramas.
When was this? What year?
06.
So this is post Katrina. Is when you decided to leave Harry's band entirely.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, just a year or so after Katrina. And Harry was cool. He said, "Man, y'all should have done this a long time ago."
Is he a Bonerama fan?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He liked it, and he gave us his blessing. So we moved on from there, you know. And Lucian and Lucian kept going. He just was Harry's main foil, like featured guy, till the end of his life. You know.
Yeah. Something that's interesting about the band, I think a lot of people, well, maybe they agree with me. When I first saw y'all, it must have been 01, 02, something like 2001, 2002, and I'd never seen anything like it. And it was funky, and it felt very New Orleans, but more specifically, like I'd never seen anyone make trombones so goddamn rock and roll, which is something that y'all were able to accomplish right out the gate, seemingly. You know, was that ever the intention? I know you said we wanted something New Orleans, but the rock and roll influence is there, without a doubt. I don't think anyone can pass up how much rock and roll is part of Bonerama.
Oh, yeah. Well, the rock and roll, Mark brought the rock and roll element into it. I'm not really a fan of rock and roll. You know, I never ever bought a Led Zeppelin record. I never even listened to it.
Are you serious?
Never even
you
listened.
put out a Led Zeppelin
I only
record.
listened to, I know, that's the irony of it all.
That's my next question.
I wasn't, you know, I didn't, to be honest, I just didn't like white boy music, you know?
All right, that's fair. That's fair.
I mean, it didn't have horns mostly, you know, Tower Power did and Chicago did. I like those.
There's plenty of great rock bands that ultimately ended up having horns.
Yeah. There were a couple of exceptions, but I was Earth, Wind, and Fire, and I was funk, and, you know, I was where I was. So my idea was, you know, this is where the New Orleans brass band element comes in. Mark brought the rock element, and it mixed in between. That's how it all mixed up like that.
Yeah. Well, I can't help but mention the Led Zeppelin album. I was going to ask you about that, and I guess it was all Mark. Mark is just such, because I know he's a tremendous Led Zeppelin fan.
Yeah.
So how did he convince you then that, like, hey, we should put this, because you guys had always been covering some of those songs, and that's been a beautiful thing of the band, is that you always throw in a fun cover. Like, you know, Frankenstein is awesome, man. I don't think I like it better than the original, the way y'all play it. You know, stuff like that. I enjoy watching Bonerama play it more than I like listening to what that album sounded like on the original rock album. So,
thank you.
I mean, how was it that he convinced you that this might be a good idea, just from playing a couple of covers every once in a while?
Well, man, many years ago, it was the early 2000s, Laney Schwest hired Bonerama to do a show at Tips in the French Quarter. It was a private thing he was doing. But he wanted us to play, we were playing a couple of Led Zeppelin things, and he liked that idea. He wanted it to be an all Led Zeppelin show featuring, who's the singer from Zebra? Randy
Jackson.
Randy Jackson. So it was Bonerama with Randy Jackson that night. One off, it happened. And then since then, we would pull out a Led Zeppelin song and just play it. And then it was time to do a record, and the Led Zeppelin thing came up. We had a lot of repertoire, and it was a natural thing to do. You know, like I said, I was never a fan of Led Zeppelin, but when we started playing their music, I became a fan of their music and some of the forms.
That's some depth, right?
Some depth, yeah. There's a lot of depth in there. Just the way the time structures go. So I developed an appreciation for them. And plus the way that Bonerama does covers
it's just cool.
is different. You know, we can't just do it as it is. It has to be a different twist on it. So, you know, Matt arranged Heartbreaker with a meters funk vibe to it. So it was fun. It was a fun, and I really do like what we did with Led Zeppelin's music.
Absolutely.
I like what they did with their music too.
What they did is fine. Everyone's already heard that, though. So for anyone out there who hasn't heard it, check out the Bonerama Led Zeppelin. What's that album called, by the way?
It's called Bonerama Plays Zeppelin.
Okay, there you go. It's aptly titled. It's about as good as it gets. I've never heard Led Zeppelin sound so good. I know people are going to hang me in the street for saying something like that. It's just cool. And watching it live is just even better. You know, just one of those things. When we did it here, 2 years ago, I was, you know, my hair was blown back against the wall. It was great.
Thank you,
it was just a lot of fun. And it's one of those things, and I think Mark might have been the first guy I ever seen. I don't mean to ask him Mark questions the whole time. I think it was the first time I ever saw a horn player with a pedal board. I don't know if I ever saw anyone do that before him.
Yeah,
I'm sure someone has.
Miles Davis played through some effects.
Yeah, I mean, physically seeing it. I've heard of that stuff.
He brought that. Yeah, that's what brings that rock element into it.
Yeah. While we're talking about the history of Bonerama, just because, again, now that group has been together over 20 years.
Yeah.
You know, when you think back. And one of the difficult things, you know, the longevity of being in a band that's around for 40 years, and another one that's around for 20 years, and another one that's around for 25 years with the Nightcrawlers, 27 years with the Nightcrawlers. Ultimately, something you have to deal with is loss of a member. And I know you guys lost, a member fairly early on. Maybe it wasn't so early on, but it's been a while now. For
well,
Bonerama.
both bands actually did. The Nightcrawlers lost Eric Traub.
That's right, Eric Traub. I can't
You know, that was a few
yeah.
years ago. And then Bonerama lost Brian O'Neill suddenly after Katrina. He had a massive heart attack on a gig that he was playing solo piano with. And it was an overnight change in how, because he played the bass trombone.
Yeah.
That's an unusual instrument. And
Yeah.
not many people play the bass trombone, and especially the way he played the bass trombone. So he was irreplaceable.
Yeah. I mean, what was the general, obviously the somber mood, I'm sure, was overwhelming. Had there ever been any consideration of, I don't know, was this going to work if we use someone else, or should we even go on? Was that ever in the conversation?
No, that was never the conversation. Okay. It was always, we're going on. And Rick Trollson, who had stepped out of the band at that moment, he came back and said, look, I'll be glad to step back in to sort of fill this void. I know it's not a bass trombone. So Rick came back into the mix, and we played like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I know at least in the past few years, maybe 5, 6, 7 years, we've had Greg Hicks as a member of the band, who I love him dearly, and he's alumnus of, no offense, my favorite band in the history of all time, Johnny Sketch and the Dirty Nose, the greatest band in the history of all time. No offense.
I hear you. I like John. I'm a fan too,
yeah, man. Johnny Sketch is the greats. So they have, he comes from good stock at the very least.
He comes from excellent stock. Well, Greg is from Denver. He moved to New Orleans to go to Loyola.
Yeah.
Loyola's known for a big music school. And we met him through there as a student at Loyola, and he started coming subbing a little bit. Playing with us every so often whenever we needed a sub. Sometimes if Rick or somebody couldn't make it, Greg would come in. So at some point we needed him because Rick was, we lost Brian and we were sort of in a bit of a flux. So Greg stepped in, and I mean, he has gone from here to here. He plays his ass off. He's strong, strong player. He's got good concept of music. He laughs all the time. Gregory Giggles is his nickname, one of his nicknames.
Is it? All right.
So we're just really lucky to have Greg, and he brings a youthful energy into it.
I mean, he's wonderful. He fits in perfect harmony with y'all for sure. And I wouldn't forgive myself if I didn't mention someone else who considers himself the hey, I'm a hire a bone or a rent a bone guy, Miracle Mo, Maurice Trosclair. I know he sat in with y'all plenty of times, and y'all are friends.
Yeah.
And I mention him only because I only got to know him a few years ago, especially when I learned the story about his cardiac arrest and everything else. He's the reason why we have the AED at the front of the club.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of giving him a nod.
Yeah,
if he's
Maurice
out there
Trosclair.
He's Miracle Mo, Maurice Trosclair. Anyone who hasn't heard of him, read his story. And, I'm just saying that to support putting defibrillators in all public spaces. There's fire extinguishers everywhere, but many more people die from cardiac arrest than catching fire.
Yeah.
So there's no reason why there shouldn't be AEDs in lots of public buildings.
Yeah,
So.
and he's the one who got him into the clubs, really.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we helped, he'd put one in Snug, and then they did a benefit. They raised money to put one in here. We did a benefit, raised money to put one in the Maple Leaf, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So just trying to spread that around, and that's all from him and Nancy. Yeah,
Maurice Trosclair. Check him out. He's he plays trombone. We've had a few trombone players come through the ranks of Bonerama. Fred Wesley recorded with us.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. he's had a decent career as well.
Yeah,
for sure. Man, we covered so much ground. I'm not done yet with you though. From what I understand, jumping back to New Orleans Nightcrawler stuff. Y'all have a whole other record ready to go. Is that true?
Well, what the Grammy did was it lit a fire under us.
Okay.
Right? So we decided right away, let's get back to let's make another record right away. Let's put another record out for Jazz Fest in October. So we started rehearsing right away.
All right.
And we're rehearsing, like we're getting together once a week. We got new music, so we're rehearsing some new music to make a record to put out for Jazz Fest in October. So that's good. That's a nice thing. And a side note, what I would tell you, one funny thing is, the band has 2 trombones, 2 trumpets, 2 saxes, 2 drummers, and a tuba player, Matt Perrine, who also we both play in both.
Yeah, I don't think we've given him enough due, quite honestly. I only say that because, I know you said you play some tuba. He is probably the most active tuba player I've seen, and I didn't realize that he had produced y'all's record either.
Yeah.
Phenomenally talented guy. I know him and Mark do the Levy Horns thing as well.
Yeah.
He stays busy.
Matt stays busy, yeah, man.
And when he's not dyeing his hair, he's busy playing the sousaphone. So.
But the other trombone player, Rick Troson used to play with us in the Nightcrawlers, and he moved on to do his own thing. And we have this young fella named Miles Lyons. Miles is 26 years old, so the band's been together longer than he's been alive. He's from here. Well, he grew up on the North Shore. He's killer. He's badass. He is, I call him Miles the Young Lion. He is amazing. So he's the youthful. We have this youthful energy, I mean, the band's got energy anyway, But
you got energy. I don't know if you knew that. You're redlining all the time.
I don't know if I'm redlining. No, but so that's a nice that's a very nice thing. It feels good to have. We're like passing we're passing the torch to him.
Yeah, man, you're the bridge. I told you, you're the bridge.
And another thing I'll say is that the record. We did this. We got a really nice, helpful grant through the Threadhead Cultural Foundation.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they gave us a nice grant to start this record. So that kind of got the ball. We got the grant, and that started the ball rolling on making this record.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, check them out, Nick. Please put their website or whatever.
Yeah.
They've helped out a lot of musicians over the years.
Oh my
sure.
God, I think they've probably helped about 150 records, maybe more by now.
Wow.
Not funded, but grants or help fund.
Yeah, helped fund, absolutely. That's phenomenal. I didn't realize that either. Man, that's great. We kind of glossed over something real quick that I want to jump back to as well. When we mentioned Katrina. Who's the Araby Wrecking Crew?
Well, okay, the Araby Wrecking Crew. Well, I lived in Araby. I was married at the time. I had 4 kids. And I lived in Araby. I lived there for a long time at the time, And so after Katrina, my house was wiped out like everybody else's. And I don't know, about a month or 2, or maybe longer than a month, I was able to get back to the house, and I took a couple of friends with me, Sheik, Bill, and Dennis, and we went to the house just to check it out, look around,
see what you can find.
See what you can find.
Yeah.
And next thing, Sheik had picked up a hammer. He started knocking out some sheetrock. He's like, "Yeah, we can fix this. We can just do this." And I said, "Sheik, man, you're a one-man wrecking crew." He goes, "Yeah, the Araby Wrecking Crew." So they helped me secure my house, cover up a couple events and do some things. And we just started talking like, this might be a good idea if we could help other musicians out. And the way to help New Orleans get back is to get music back, right? If the music comes back, people are going to come back.
I wish people would recognize that in the modern world as well sometimes.
Music is medicine.
Yeah.
So it snowballed from there. And next thing I said, well, I know all these musicians that need help. And the 4 of us started going to musicians' house. First, we would throw all of the stuff. You have to empty all of the stuff. So we started doing that. And next thing you know, people started hearing about it, saying, "Hey, I want to come help." Next thing you know, we got 6 people helping us. And next thing you know, it's 10 people helping us. So it grew into the Araby Wrecking Crew became a really significant part of helping get the ball started to roll on musicians. We've pretty much focused on musicians. We help some people whose families are musicians, but we gutted a bunch of houses, and then we would take the sheetrock out because it was wet. You had to go down to the studs so the wood could dry out. Wood will dry out, and that was the idea. Let's gut the houses so at least you have the beginning phase of it, and that was the Araby Wrecking Crew. It grew. Oh man, we had 30 people at one house.
Wow.
Like it caught on and it grew. People started wanting to get involved in it, and it did a really great thing. We got, like I said, we probably gutted 150 houses, maybe.
That many? Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I tell you don't live in Araby anymore?
I don't. I got divorced, and so I moved out of Araby.
Okay. All right. Well, while we're speaking of Araby, I only want to bring up one thing. This is total not connected to anything you were talking about, but Paris specific. What's the finest dining establishment you would say is in the Chalmette area?
Rocky and Carlos.
Okay, just checking. It's the correct answer. I just wanted to know. I wanted to make sure I'm not crazy.
And make sure you get the mac and cheese.
Oh man, the mac and cheese is so good. I just like asking. It's definitely the finest dining. We don't get paid to say that. I just want to mention it just because I'm such a fan of their work.
Rocky and Carlos. Well, so supposedly that.
Ladies are invited, by the way. I don't know if you know
They
that.
are now.
Yeah.
Well, but Rockies didn't actually flood during Katrina.
It didn't?
Well, there was so much grease in that place, the water just kind of slipped right through. It just kind of. Never mind.
It's all right. It's all right. The audience gets it, right, guys?
Right.
All right. No, round of applause.
That person got it.
Before I get into the final question, I do have one question that is something that has only interested me recently. When I started realizing that touring musicians can be such maniacs, which is, what's one thing that you got to have when you go on tour? Is there one thing that you just can't leave town without?
Your instrument.
Well, obviously, aside from your instrument.
Oh,
They'll just leave you on the side of the road if you leave that at home.
Maybe, I know some people bring their hot sauce or their Tony Chachere's or something like that. Like Ace said, I do. Mm-hmm. I used to bring a hot plate and cook on us when we used to cook.
No kidding.
Yeah, Shannon Powell started that whole cooking thing.
All right.
And he would cook, and I would bring something, and I started doing that too.
It's a good idea.
It's a good idea. Yeah.
Y'all were rolling on a bus back then?
Yeah,
That was how many? It must have been a bunch of buses. Then,
It was 3 buses. Yeah, there was Harry had his bus.
We had his own bus,
Yeah,
but
Harry
25 of y'all had to.
Yeah, well, he pretty much lived on his bus. He stayed on his bus.
Okay.
He didn't really even hardly check into a hotel much. But there was a smoking bus and a non-smoking bus. It was actually more like the New Orleans guys. We were on the non-smoking bus. Leroy, Lucian,
Okay.
So that's But we traveled on the buses.
I'm a smoker, but I don't think I'd want to travel on the smoking bus. Wait till we stop somewhere and I'll step outside.
Yeah.
Especially, maybe there should be a cooking and a not cooking bus. One of them's gonna smell like fried food all the time. The other one won't. I don't know.
Yeah, but I guess I don't know. I guess I don't know. Some people bring their seasoning. I just it almost become when you go on a road when you've been doing it for so long. You know when you have to go. You know what you have to put in your suitcase.
Yeah.
You pretty much know it's almost like a routine. So I have those things that I just know I have to go to and I bring. It's almost like I can pack in my sleep.
All right. Well, you're probably just mostly utility by now, only because if it doesn't serve a function, why am I bringing it on the road?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You don't get to travel on a bus every time. I think a lot of people don't realize that. Sometimes it is just vans and cars traveling around.
That's how Bonerama travels. Yeah.
Yeah.
We do it like that. It's yeah.
All right. Well, while we were talking about food, I'm going to go ahead and do the segue towards the end of the program. You're awesome. I love talking to you so much, man.
Can I mention one? I didn't even.
Talk about
there's
whatever you
one
want.
thing that just came out that I'm really, really happy with.
Tell me whatever you want to tell me.
Well, I just released a solo record, right? And
Not your first solo record.
It's not. No, I put my first solo record out in 2004 called New Orleans Trombonisms. Mm-hmm. Dave Bartholomew's on that record. John Boutte, Leroy Jones. I
actually did make a note about that. We skipped right over it. I'm sorry.
It's a really good record. I'm really happy. And then I did a couple of other records with a French trombone player in between that. But in 2019, Lucian, like I told you before, just my dearest friend, role model, inspiration, brother, everything. I can't say enough, great things about him. We were going to do a 2-trombone record, and we also had a grant from the Threadheads. We applied. We were going to do a 2-trombone gospel record, 2 trombones in a rhythm section.
Okay.
And then Lucian just got sick, and he couldn't do it. So after Lucian died, I wanted to do a tribute to Lucian. I'm thinking, how can I honor my friend in a recording? What can I do? I mean, I thought maybe I'll invite different trombone players on each track. That's the no-brainer. But I thought it's not the same as playing with Lucian. I just couldn't do it like that. And then I heard this old recording of Rex Stewart is a trumpet player and Dickie Wells was a trombone player. They were sort of like the early Count Basie days, swing and jazz players. And there was a record called Chatterjazz, and I just happened to come upon it. I don't even know how, and it reminded me of Lucian. It was almost like Lucian sent me this record to listen to say, here's the direction, do something like this. And these two horns were talking between one another with mutes. It was not long solos. It was like phrases, a phrase. You could really hear the playfulness and the conversations going on between these two horns. And it reminded me of Lucian so much. And I said, I want to do a record like this. So the Threadhead said, yeah, let's we'll roll that over into this record, do a Lucian tribute record. So I got Kevin Lewis on trumpet, and Kevin is a great trumpet player from here. And he was playing with Lucian a lot and played with Lucian on Thursdays at Preservation Hall, and Lucian called him his musical director. And I would be around, go around all of that. And Kevin and I played a lot. We were playing a lot. We play a lot together at Preservation Hall, and we used to play a lot together in the Vipers, which when he was in that band. So I got Kevin Lewis as the other horn, who would be the person to have a conversation about Lucian with. Yeah. And then I got the rhythm section from the Vipers, which is Mitchell Player on bass, Molly Reeves guitar, and Steve DeTroy on piano. And I used also Lucian's nephew, Jerry Barbara Anderson, he's Kermit's drummer.
Okay.
So we did this record, and we recorded it at the end of December 2020, and it just came out this past week. Okay. And it's called Craig Klein, Talkative Horns, a musical conversation on Lucian Barberin. And it's 8 songs on it. I have 3 of my own original songs that are all based around Lucian, and then I picked out songs that were sort of Lucian's theme songs, like he did Rockin' Chair, Old Rockin' Chair's Got Me. That was one of his theme songs. He also did a song, Girl of My Dreams, and a couple of other ones. So we put together some really nice arrangements and went in and recorded it. And this just came out. And I'm really, really happy with the way this record it turned out. It's really a conversation, a musical conversation about a dear friend of ours.
Okay.
So,
is there a website or a place that people can buy it?
Yes, right now it's only available digital on Bandcamp.
All right.
So if you go to Bandcamp and you search my name, Craig Klein, you'll find the record on there.
All right, Nick will put a link up there.
For that, okay. Yeah. And then when the CD will be coming in the next couple weeks or so.
All right, it'll be a couple of weeks before this plays. So when the CD or whatever is available, if you have another website, let us know. We'll put the information.
Oh, good. Oh, it'll be at the Louisiana Music Factory.
Okay, perfect. That's an easy one. We know that one.
Yeah. So that's one thing that I'm really happy with at this. I mean, I'm happy with everything pretty much, but this record, a tribute to my really great friend Lucian.
It's beautiful, man. That's beautiful.
It's I feel really good about this. I feel great about the music, and it's a fun record. The two horns are talking. You can actually hear the conversation. There's a playfulness in this record also.
Right on. All right, well, that's wonderful. Nick will put that information up there and possibly in the description as well below. Ace, before I get to the final questions, do you have anything? Sorry to jump random. He has a microphone, but he hasn't spoken yet.
No, he pretty much filled me in on his entire life.
Okay.
And I will say one thing, though.
Go ahead,
about
Ace.
the Nightcrawlers.
Yeah.
I get to mix them every year at French Quarter Fest, and it is the highlight of my weekend.
You hear that?
I missed
it
this
He
year.
mixes the brass band stage every year at French Quarter
that.
Fest. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now they're just another Grammy Award winner I've mixed.
Just another Grammy winner again. Just another Grammy winner.
Well, look, I brought some recordings for y'all. Y'all can take all of these.
We'll give him the sticker. Tanner, when we're done with this, bring the Sharpie down so we'll have him sign this. We have a small collection. This will make number 2 in our collection of records of musicians who have signed their records that we keep up on the wall in the office. It's a new phenomenon that we're trying since we have a Tipitina's record club now.
Yeah, I'm so happy to hear
that's
that.
a new thing. Well, potentially down the road, I think they already have this year's set, but we hope to do the record club for an ever and ever. And eventually you will definitely be on that. I can assure you that. But you don't leave yet until you answer another question. We talked about food before, and something that comes up in all these interviews is po' boys. You're from here, so I'm sure you have favorite po' boys and everything else. This all started because Stanton Moore of Galactic has a signature po' boy called the Bomb. And the Bomb is over at Guy's Po' Boys on Magazine. When they used to live across the street over there on Valmont, it's Valmont. They were friends with Marvin, who runs the joint. He used to bring them food, but he created a signature po' boy called the Bomb. I'm wondering, what is the Craig Klein? Or, you can create a different name. It doesn't have to be named after you. It can be the Trombonism. But here, sorry, multi question in one. What's your favorite go-to spot for po' boys? You're from Metairie, so I would assume probably Shortstop is probably your neighborhood that you grew up with.
Well, and let me back up and say, I grew up in Metairie. My parents are many generations from the city, and they moved out to Metairie when I was 7 years old.
Okay.
Shortstop was the beginning because it was right around the corner from EJ, and we could skip out from EJ and go get a shortstop and not go back to school. But Parkway Bakery, for me, hands down. It's
a great one, yeah.
Surf and Turf, which is the roast beef with fried shrimp on it. Dressed, I kind of do like a little light mayo just because there's a lot of gravy on there. Yeah. And that's my go-to.
That's your go-to. Okay, every single time. That's all good. Create the trombonism, or call it a different, whatever you want.
Okay.
For instance, the Bomb that I mentioned before, grilled catfish, grilled shrimp, cheddar Swiss, dressed is that one.
Okay.
We've had other ones that have been mentioned on here before, like I don't want to give you too many different examples, so you just end up copying it. But create top to bottom your own signature po' boy, the Craig Klein.
Okay. I got it already.
Okay, go. Perfect.
Okay, here's what it would be. Of course, it's dressed. It's got to be dressed. Yeah. And it would be soft shell crab, oysters, shrimp, and catfish, all on the same bread.
All fried?
All fried.
That's so beautiful, man. That's perfect.
It's gonna, it's like a Dagwood.
Yeah, that's fine.
It'll be about like this.
That's fine.
That's
hot sauce as well. Like, do you do hot sauce?
No, I don't do the hot sauce. I'm not. No, just with a good flavor on the batter.
Yeah, I'm sure the batter would be perfect, especially if you get like Parkway or something like that.
Yeah, maybe fried from like Seethers or something like that.
That's perfect. All right, Jason Seether, get on that. The Craig Klein. Yeah, next time I go out to Harahan to get some seafood, that's what I want. I want all of that. What was it? Soft shell crab, shrimp, oysters, and catfish.
That's just seafood platter on bread.
Yeah, it is just a seafood platter on bread. What's your problem, Ace?
Without the fries, I guess.
Yeah, no fries.
No fries. Yeah,
you get a side of fries, I guess, but I don't think you'd need it.
No.
Well, that is beautiful. Thank you so much. For anyone who hasn't seen Atmosphere, won a freaking Grammy, everybody. So check it out if you have not already. And no one leaves empty-handed. Craig Klein, you are the recipient of a certificate suitable for framing. Not quite as important as the Grammys, but I'm going to give you a folder for it. Whoa. If you wouldn't mind reading that on there. Good thing you have your readers on.
Yeah, a certificate suitable for framing for participation in the All Right broadcast. We here certify that you, Craig Klein, are officially awesome for being interviewed on this day, April 7th, 2021, for absolutely no monetary compensation whatsoever. Congratulations, and you're welcome.
You're welcome. Note the seal of seriousness right there.
Seal of seriousness. Well, the Nightcrawlers did write all right. And it goes, all right, everything's going to be all right. And then it says, jump up and scream, throw your hands in the air, all right. Do what you want, baby, we don't care. The city that makes music history, New Orleans is the place to be.
Mm-hmm. That might become our new theme song. We're going to have to get some kind of written permission to get that to happen, probably.
You got it.
I don't know how that works.
I already gave it to you on the stream.
That's right. We have video evidence that we have permission to use that song however we like in promotion and marketing.
I'm going to ask the other guys, but pretty much go ahead and use it.
We'll just assume that it's all good.
It's all good.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. Craig Klein, seriously, you're a delight. I love having you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
Let me do the ramp down. Thank you so much to Ace over here with the sound and Miller Lights over there in the corner. Thank you to Tanner Logan for doing the camera operation. Thank you to Nick Logan for doing all the editing and executive producing. Thank you to Tipitinas for letting us use the space. And thank you to Nugs.net for letting us use the equipment. And thank you to Marvin Brown from Uptown, for our hospitality, for the guest what are we going to call it? Artist hospitality sponsor. Thank you so much.
Yes.
We appreciate that. And we appreciate you. Like, subscribe, do all the stuff. Craig Klein, everybody. Thank you, man. Seriously.
Thank you, Tank.
Thanks,
It was a
man.
pleasure talking to you.
Absolutely.
This was fun.
Absolutely. It's just nice hanging out here sometimes,
It's
right?
great
Like,
hanging out. I
you
mean,
just
we're on the
hang out.
stage
Yeah,
at
dude.
Tipitinas. You can't beat this.
Hanging out at Tips. Like, that's the only reason why we started doing this. I needed an excuse to have drinks on stage.